and I'd like to hear what's your biggest concern for race day fueling. Um, and you know, when I ask you, let us know. I'm just gonna say a name, so be ready to unmute yourself and ask your question, or let us know, and let us know if you're a new ultra runner, um, and what your name is and what brings you to Dirty 30. So let's start with Janelle Fitzpatrick. Is it?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you mind doing, do you have video? Do you mind doing video?
Oh, yeah, hold on.
Ah, thank you. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. What brings you to Dirty 30? Is this your first time? And tell us what your big concern is for race day fueling.
Yes, this would be like my first ultra. I mean, I've done like a regular marathon, but I've never done an ultra. And so I don't know, I'm just really concerned because when I did a marathon, like I hit the dreaded wall at like 20 miles. And I feel like it was something that I was doing that wasn't fueling properly.
So do you have any like number one concerns? Is it just that wall or at mile 20 or?
I feel like, I don't know, I have like questions and stuff like, how should I fuel like the week before? Like, I've heard of the carbo load, but I've never heard of like, you know, what you should and shouldn't eat like the week before to help you actually within the day.
Okay, that's good. I think that's some of the stuff that that Dina is going to be covering. So great.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rochelle Finzel, please unmute yourself. And if you can, join us on the video too, if you can.
Yeah.
Hello, Rochelle.
Hey, Megan. Yeah, I mean, just echoing what Janelle said as well. It's more really trying to pace out, you know, when to fuel and what's the best source. I've done one ultra and you know, a handful of marathons, and really haven't had much of a problem. But I'm also, you know, the last ultra I did, I carried a lot of my own food, and so I'm hoping not to do that for the Dirty 30. So any tips on that as well, as far as how to prepare then for what's going to happen on race day?
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. Let's see. Curtis, can you unmute yourself and share video and let us know what your number one concern is?
Sure. So, hello. This is my first ultra. So my number one concern is in general, just how to fuel for a race. In fact, I haven't really ran anything below a 10K or above a 10K, sorry.
So this is going to be a big, big jump for you. That's awesome.
Yep, that's true.
Well, Dina's got a big job tonight. She's got to get all you newbies ready for this big old, this is a big goal for you guys. And I'm super excited to have you come to your first with Dirty 30. It means a lot to me. And I you know, just take it seriously by trying to help you guys with all these happy hour events. So yeah, thanks so much for being here. Let's see, Morgan, would you like to just unmute yourself and say hello? Tell us if this is your first and what is your big concern or worry or thought for race day fueling?
Well, endless worries. This will be my first ultra, so I'm really excited for it. And I've never done a marathon. I've done up to the half marathon distance, so really excited for this. Figured that I would challenge myself a bit. And I'm a bit worried just about getting enough calories down. Trying a different couple of fuel sources on long runs to figure out what works best, and still trying to figure out the best option that I'll still want to have at mile 25. So
that's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm glad you're here. I know that I've heard this talk from Dina, and she does a great job of really spelling it out, so it makes sense and really helps people out a lot. So,
and thank you for hosting. This is wonderful.
Oh, great. I'm glad you're here, so thanks. All right, let's see how about Lee? Lee, do you want to unmute yourself? Tell us where you're from, and is this your first Dirty 30? And tell us what your big concern is.
Sure, and hi Dina, we worked together a couple years ago, so good to see you. This is my second Dirty 30, and I think for me right now, and in some of my running and racing in the past, I'm really trying to work on hydration and drinking enough fluids, and just trying to focus on that with some of my training, and then obviously, hoping that on race day too, really focusing on that I'm maintaining my fluid intake.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for being here. All right, let's do.
I did a metabolic efficiency test on Lee in 2015.
It's a while ago, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a little while ago.
That's great.
Just a few.
That's awesome. All right, let's see, one more. Who else would like? Tara, would you like to unmute yourself and perhaps share a video and tell us where you're from and what brings you to Dirty 30 and what your big question is? Tara, are you out there? She may have sent a message. Let's. Audio's broken. Oh, Tara's audio is broken. Okay. How about Rory?
Hey, this is Rory.
Hi, Rory. Where are you from? Second Dirty 30?
From, yeah, Ireland originally. Second Ultra, first Dirty 30, did the Antelope Canyon. That same distance. A lot of sand.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but a lot of sand. Yeah, major concerns is I can't do two things at the same time. I can't eat and run. So yeah, some sort of help in how to balance the two, not lose all speed, stop, eat, and then go.
Mm-hmm. Are you a front of the packer?
No, probably middle. I'm
Okay.
old.
Okay. Well, hopefully Dina can address some of that too. So, all right, you guys. Well, thanks so much for sharing these things. I think a lot of us have the same concerns. So let's get going with the evening. I have a couple people I'd like to introduce to you before Dina begins her presentation. I'd like to start out by introducing Sandy Sorio from Runner's Roost. She is one of the amazing managers at Runner's Roost. And Sandy, are you out there? Can you unmute yourself and share a video? There you are. Thank you so much for being here. I just really appreciate you, really appreciate Runner's Roost. Looking forward to our last happy hour event being live at the Runner's Roost Denver. We just are nailing down the plans for that. Matt Hart and Addie Bracey will be speaking at that. And the theme is Run Your Best Dirty 30. So, and Sandy is a manager at Louisville and the Boulder stores. So if you guys have been in there, you've probably met Sandy, but do you want to just take a moment and let us know a little bit about Runner's Roost and maybe a little bit about our gift package from you tonight, prize package?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Megan. Thanks to the Dirty 30, and thanks for Dina being here tonight, who's about to give us a boatload of wonderful and useful information about our nutrition for race day, which is so important for everybody. So that's great. I am at the Boulder and Louisville locations of the Runner's Roost. We have 6 locations across the Front Range, and we are locally owned. We're the only locally owned run specialty in the state. So that's super awesome. We have tons of different types of shoes, apparel, gear, anything that's going to get you going for your training and for your race day, which is great. Everybody here is happy to help. We all come from all different backgrounds, which is great, whether it's track, whether it's marathoning, whether it's body mechanics, physical therapy, chiropractic, anything like that. We have all that different information to offer. So we love to just chat and have you come into the store and give you any information that we possibly can. We're all very social and we just love visitors here. So come and visit us and tell us what's going on so we can chat about how we can help. Tonight, we're giving away a $25 Roost gift card along with a large bag of Tailwind. And then I just picked out a whole bunch of other nutrition pieces just to kind of get you started. It's always really important that during your training runs that you get out and you start testing out different types of brands or products to know what's going to work well for your body. Also knowing what each race is actually going to post at their aid stations. So I'm sure Megan has posted, what they're going to have, and that's really important as well if you don't want to carry it with you, so that you know what to expect at the aid station, so that you're ready to go race day. And I'm sure Dina's going to give you all of that information tonight. So I'm just as excited as you all are about hearing all the information she's about to give. And thank you again to Megan for allowing me to talk for a moment here and hosting all these wonderful events for us. This is just amazing information that everybody can benefit from. So it's great all around.
Thanks so much, Sandy. Thanks for taking a moment. I know you're busy
Yeah,
trying
thank
to close
you.
the store up, so thanks so much.
Yeah, I got a little crazy tonight. I'm like, oh, it's like a mess here.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate you, and thanks for your wonderful prize donation for tonight's event.
Yeah, whoever the winner is, I guess we'll just contact and we'll find out which location is closest for you, and I'll make sure that the prize gets there and it'll have your name on it.
Awesome. We'll make sure that you get that info.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys.
All
Have
right.
fun
Thank
tonight.
you. Thank you. All right. Let's see. The next person I would love to introduce to you guys is Tim Straffen from Ultra Shoes. Tim, are you out there? Can you unmute yourself and share video?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Hi, Tim. Before you dive into what you want to share, I just want to let all the Dirty 30ers know that Ultra has released the Boulder shoe. Not that we're road runners or anything like that, but we're all runners. But the exciting thing about this is that I'm going to enter in more people. Sorry. The exciting thing about this is that after the very, very unfortunate event of the Boulder shootings, I'm just super excited about what Boulder, Ultra, and the Boulder Running Company jumped in to donate all the net proceeds from this specific Boulder Ultra shoe. It's a road shoe. It's called the Escalante. And so there's only a couple left. They've sold all these shoes, and all the net proceeds are going to help the families of the victims in that shooting. It's the Colorado Healing Fund. So thank you, Ultra, for standing up and being leaders in our community for that. And without any further ado, I just want to introduce you to our community. I know that you're going to be at the next happy hour ready to do some demos. So we'll get a live event and we get to demo some Ultra shoes. If you're not familiar with our great shoes, this is a great opportunity to try them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Megan. Megan kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to bring that up. It was a great, really proud of it at Ultra. It came together very fast. I got to give a hats off to the Invent influence manager, Mike Birch, who will be there at the end of May. So you'll get to meet him in person as well, and the whole marketing team. But my name is Tim Straffen. I'm the field representative based out here in Denver, Colorado, in our new backyard. We were Ultra, if you don't know, we were born in the back room of a running store 10 years ago, actually. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary this month, so we're super excited. Outgrew our space in Utah. Now we're located down here in Denver. I'm super excited to be the face of the brand here in the field and to meet everybody in person and be at all these races in the very near future. But tonight we will be giving away of Ultra shoes. So if you want to direct message me or send your information to Megan when this is over, whoever the winner is, I will more than happily send a pair of your choosing to your doorstep. So excited for some good conversation tonight. If you have anything Ultra related or any running questions I can help answer, feel free to direct message me here. I can be on for a little while tonight, but I have another meeting, so I got to go soon. But I'm excited for the good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody, if you have questions regarding Ultra shoes, you can enter those questions into the chat field. I know that Tim's keeping an eye on that, and he can answer your questions there as we continue on with the rest of the introductions. Thanks so much for being here. What is the tagline for Ultra? They're not wide shoes, they're foot formed shoes.
Foot shaped.
Foot shaped.
Balance cushion.
Foot shaped. So yeah, they're great shoes and they fit your foot well. So thank you so much. All right, the next person I would love to introduce to you guys is, being a night of nutrition, I wanted to bring on V Fuel. V Fuel provides gels at both Dirty 30 and the Silverton races. And V Fuel Endurance gel, the first true endurance gel, offers superior digestion by staying 100% away from fructose in all their products. And fructose is one of the things that does cause stomach issues. The addition of MCT oil helps maintain even energy levels by avoiding nasty spikes. Their proprietary blend of supplements and amino acids keep muscles fresh, reduces delayed onset muscle soreness, and helps get you back on the trail as soon as possible. And of course, you can learn more about their products at their website, vfuel.com. We have all our defining moments. We all have our defining moments. When we fell in love with our sport and VFuel athlete, Taylor Bowden is no exception. In the 3rd grade, he became hooked on competitive running after he won his first race with a broken arm. Oh my goodness. With a passion for racing, he channeled his talents into a successful collegiate running career, being awarded All-American status for 3 years. Presently, he has the privilege of shaping young minds through teaching elementary age children and coaching cross country and track in Estes Park, Colorado. Taylor and his wife Dawn share the joy of raising 2 beautiful girls in their free time. They have coaching business together and love running new mountain trails at every chance. So I'd like to take a moment just to introduce to you Taylor Bowden. He is a VFuel athlete, and he's here just to share a little bit of his experience with VFuel and why he is an ambassador and an athlete for VFuel. So Taylor, are you out there? Can you unmute yourself, share video?
Yeah. Hi. Making me blush a little bit. Thanks. No, it's kind of funny that this coming full circle because Dirty 30 was my first ultra.
Wow.
When I had no idea what I was doing. I resonate with someone out there who jumped from a 10K to doing the 50K, and that's where I found VFuel actually. Had no idea what I was doing. I tried about everything out there, just listening to folks on the trail, new people we were learning, coming from a track background. Trail running, which is so different. But I tried VFuel, partly because it was local, because we moved right from the Midwest to Estes Park. And knowing it was a local product, I tried that, and then tried about every gel that you can think of that's on the market. And I kept coming back to VFuel because it was one of the few that had any impact on my gut. And that's the big thing with VFuel, is that it digests so well. And because it doesn't base itself off of fructose, it's based off of dextrose, a more simple strand of sugars that can digest a little more easily. So that's one thing I use a lot of my training. In every race, I just did a race in Salida a couple of weekends ago, and it's one thing I will always vouch for with VFuel is that you don't get the high spikes as you would with most real sugar-based products, or the low lows either. It's just a consistent fuel source, and I really love it.
That's
So
great.
thanks for having me.
I love that you come to them after doing Dirty 30 as your first. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I did want to say with Tim from Ultra, I do gear and shoe reviews for Believe in the Run, and we've just got a lot of Ultra stuff in soon, so I can vouch for any of the newer Ultra shoes that are coming out are just awesome. So I'd love to answer any questions for you guys too. We run through all the gear, all the fuels, all the shoes with these reviews, and Ultra definitely rises to the top, and so is VFuel too. So that's pretty awesome that they're both here with Dirty 30.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing. And if you guys have any questions for Taylor regarding VFuel, and I know Dina's going to speak a little bit towards what VFuel is and for race day stuff a little bit later in her presentation. So yeah, if you have any questions for Taylor, please send them to the chat. And Taylor, if you can keep an eye on the chat so that you can answer those. And thanks so much for being here. And now for the star of tonight's show, Dina, are you out there? Can you unmute and share video?
Yes, I'm here.
There's Dina.
Yep.
Hi.
Yeah.
So,
Hi.
yeah, so we have about 45 participants on right now. They keep coming in. Thank you everybody for being out here. I am super excited and honored to introduce to you Dina. After seeing her father's life extended with a revamped diet and nutrition plan after a cancer diagnosis, and then for her having terrible GI distress during one of her Boston qualifying marathons, Dina was inspired to leave her well-paying software engineering career to study human nutrition and food science, and then to go on and complete the credentialing as a registered dietitian and a board-certified sports dietitian. Dina worked 8 years as an independent contractor for another nutrition consulting company and knew it was time to spread her wings and to create her own company. She started her company, The Nutrition Mechanic, in 2018. And I remember when she did that. It was very exciting. She serves to optimize the health and performance of endurance athletes through one-on-one coaching and online group coaching programs. She blends science-based evidence, informed strategies along with real-life considerations to individualize nutrition and competition plans for each athlete. Dina's been helping Dirty 30ers get to the finish line with her wisdom, experience, and expertise since, I think it's been since 2016, right? Was the first year I reached out to you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. And she is a 2014 Dirty 30er, so she knows what she's talking about when she shares this information with you. She knows the grueling experience you guys are all in for. She's been there herself. And additionally, I asked Dina to invite one of her ultra running clients who can speak to the value of dialing in your nutrition and how that can affect your overall performance and just your feeling of feeling good while you're doing this stuff and avoiding those pain caves and walls that we are familiar with. So you will get to be hearing a little bit from her client, Finley, as well. So please welcome Dina, the Nutrition Mechanic.
Well, thanks, Megan. I didn't realize you were going to do that whole spiel there.
My secret.
Well, I'm grateful for everyone who's taking the time this evening to be on yet another Zoom on the screen. But it sounds like there's some here who are new to ultra distance running, which is really exciting, and some of you who are experienced but maybe want to fine tune something. So, I mean, honestly, I love this. I love ultra running myself, and I love this topic, obviously, because I work in sports nutrition. But it's cool that Megan thought of also inviting an athlete that I've worked with, and actually there are a couple others on that I see as well. But I just want to quickly introduce Finley, who's here. And I didn't write up a whiz bang bio for you, Finley, so you're going to have to do this. All I can say is you're, one of the amazing runners that I've had an opportunity to work with. And so the point here is kind of me giving some of the recommendations that I've built from my own personal experience, from the science and the research we have, but also then having Finley talk as, an athlete who has worked with a sport dietitian and maybe some of his perspectives on pros and cons of all of those aspects. So Finley, do you want to say hello before we get going in the presentation?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks Dina and Megan for inviting me along. A little bit of a different evening to be on a Zoom with everyone here, but it's pretty cool. I don't have a long-standing history of running. I used to do a lot of kayaking as a kid, but didn't start running till I moved to America 10 years ago, almost exactly, and didn't start ultras until about 5 years ago. I still consider myself new to the sport. I've got a lot to learn and continue to grow and develop. So yeah, happy to be here with everyone.
Cool. So I thought how it would work is I'll go through, I actually have some nerdy slides to share. That way you don't have to look at my mug the whole time. So I'll do like some sections, and then flip it back to Finley to add some of his comments. And then I think, Megan, you want to do Q&A towards the end, but perhaps there's some room for Q&A throughout. Is that right, Megan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's get going since it's 20 after the hour. So I'm just moving a few windows around. Pardon me. Okay, let's see if I can do this. My apologies here for the, all right. Hopefully you can see this. You know, to be honest, we could spend like a whole day, maybe 3 days talking nutrition with everything I want everyone to know. But obviously with our time constraints, I just want to highlight some of the important things, put, you know, thinking caps on some of the common mistakes that I see in the ultra running world, but also some things here specific to the Dirty 30 and ultra running in particular. So we'll go over a few nuggets related to daily nutrition and then get into the nutrition and hydration around our training runs and things to be thinking about as we all prepare for the Dirty 30. So the thing is, a lot of us endurance athletes tend to not think about our day-to-day nutrition until things are going awry. And so I want to just plant a few seeds here to, even though a lot of you commented beautifully, and you know, I respect this, that you want to know how to fuel for the Dirty 30. I also want to just encourage you to think about what you're doing right now with your daily nutrition. Because we have plenty of time to make some adjustments and just like clue in, kind of key into some things here that may affect your race day. So nutrition is like a foundation for all of these amazing elements that we experience, whether it's conscious or not. So you know, what's going on with your skeleton, your injury, like how well your tissues respond to the, you know, the stimuli of running and things like this. So nutrition really touches a lot of areas. Again, I could talk ad nauseum about a lot of these aspects, but it's just to give you a flavor and a little appreciation, or a little more appreciation, that how we're eating and fueling ourselves day to day really does impact not only our athlete selves, but just us as human beings. You know, so who cares about it? But as athletes, you know, our energy needs, our calorie needs can be pretty high. And so I think a lot of athletes get worried about, you know, in the minutia, how many calories or how many grams of this or that, which can be a legitimate concern. But it's just to say that as athletes, and especially ultra athletes, our needs are special. And so it's not just what we're doing around our runs, but also day-to-day stuff. Along with that is just how we're putting together foods that help us manage the response to training and how well we adapt to the training that we're doing, and then trying to prevent illness, stay injury free, maybe affect our metabolic health in a positive way. So there's a whole lot here. But if you've never paid attention to your daily nutrition all that much, you know, there's no time like the present. And the beauty and the frustration perhaps is that we're also different. So obviously we have, you know, our assigned sex at birth, female, male, but the ability that we each have as runners and our growth and development as runners, because we can take this to be a lifelong hobby. You know, we may have other health concerns, or as athletes, you know, we may respond to weather conditions differently or be sensitive at varying levels. So there's just a whole lot here, and I wish I could give you one formula and we could just sign off in 5 minutes, but it's pretty layered and there are a lot of nuances. So a couple more things about daily nutrition is this thing, a couple of you here that I know are familiar with this term metabolic efficiency. But I just want to, for those of you who've never heard this or you're not aware, our bodies have two primary energy sources. So we have stored fat and we have stored carbohydrate. The reason I bring this up in the context of us ultra runners is that it's ideal if we can teach our bodies to tap into our fat stores more efficiently through modifications to our daily nutrition. And that's a whole separate talk, but the concept here is that we have thousands and thousands and thousands of calories stored as fat that can be mobilized to ATP or an energy source, our primary energy source. As ultra runners, most of us are not professional here or elite level. There are a few of you here, I know, but even so, at these lower or moderate run intensities, we can really benefit by, again, utilizing more of our stored energy from fat. This plays out on race day, and I'll get to that point or a little bit more of that explanation as we go along. So in contrast to fat storage, we have very limited carbohydrate storage, which is why we have to, for some of us, fuel often during our runs. Some people take a gel every 15 minutes, for example. That might be a scenario where the body is not conditioned as well to use fat as an energy source. So this is just a term I want you to be familiar with because it relates to how our daily nutrition can impact our fuel use and therefore our fuel consumption. So all of us have carb and fat stored. As we begin our exercise or begin movement of any sort, the goal is at lower and moderate run intensities, our body uses more fat as an energy source. So this graph here that you see is a very old, basic kind of flow or graphic of how the red line being fat, showing that at lower intensities, we should be using more fat for energy source. So all of us sitting or just standing right now, if I were to measure your fuel use through a metabolic cart, I should see a high proportion of fat for the energy you're burning right now. The problem is this old notion that was, this concept that was developed or thought of over 100 years ago, it's not the same for all of us. We used to think it's only exercise that determines our fat and carbohydrate usage. But it's actually nutrition, how we eat every day that can affect how our bodies will tap into these stored fuels. As ultra runners, this is an example of an assessment that was done. Actually, this is my data from 2014 because I did the Dirty 30 that year and I was doing a lot of the testing. And I was training also for Leadville this year. But this is just a feel for at varying run, walk and run intensities, how the body, my body was using fat in the red line. So all the calories I was burning at these different intensities versus carbohydrate, that blue line that you see. As ultra runners, even if it's 50K or 200 miles, it doesn't matter the distance, any ultra distance, it's kind of a beautiful thing if we're not depleting our glycogen stores right out of the gate. For the longer distance, 100, 200 mile and above, that might become more challenging to preserve our glycogen. But there's still a lot of opportunity here to manipulate our daily nutrition to maximize what I'm talking about. So this is just a very simple glance here for you all, just to see a kind of an inefficient or less efficient, I'll call it, in the orange there, like day-to-day foods, to a bit more on the metabolic efficiency side. There's nothing wonky or fad or like Frankenfood here. This is like real food, right? It's whole food stuff. But if you can take a peek there, the foods and meals that you see on in the orange, there's nothing wrong with this, but it's a higher proportion of some refined carbohydrates, maybe a lack of protein, a lack of some fiber foods. Really, when we measure an athlete like this that has this kind of eating pattern, they're just not as efficient at burning fat. And that's okay, we can work with that. It's just, again, if we can tap into fat storage more efficiently, then that helps us out on race day. We may not need as much fuel per hour. And I'll explain also one benefit of that. So this is just a pre and post to kind of show you if we are adding in more protein, kind of up in the quality of the foods, maybe modifying carbohydrates to better support our training runs, being more strategic with timing. All this stuff plays out in terms of our metabolic fuel use. And I just want to be clear here before I pause and let Finley talk a little bit about maybe a couple things he did with his daily nutrition. I'm not talking about keto. I'm not talking about, like 4-day fasts. I'm not talking about, do all your 5-hour runs in a fasted state. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about strategic carbohydrate, paying attention to the needs of female athletes, because that has long been neglected or just not recognized that we need to pay attention to female athletes. But this is like a framework for your daily nutrition to support your needs as an athlete, an ultra athlete, but also just trying to enhance that foundation of health. So again, this is a whole separate talk, but I would feel remiss to not mention this, because it is something that I see is really powerful, especially with endurance athletes and ultra athletes. So I'm just going to pause here, take a drink of water, and let Finley comment if he has some things he wants to share in regards to some of the work we did, I guess, a couple years ago when we first met with regard to daily nutrition.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started running as a way to ward off, weight gain and what have you, and then I got into it to do it as fun, as a sport, rather than just as a kind of thing that frankly was hiding my bad habits. It wasn't helping me resolve my bad habits, and if anything, perhaps exacerbated them, because I was able to exercise more, so I ate more, and I was getting these horrendous energy crashes, during the day regularly and what have you. So one of the things I was looking to do is, I was running enough, and I was getting interested, I was excited by it, I was loving it, but it was still hiding kind of all these bad habits. So, the reason we started talking 2 years ago now is because I wanted to kind of flip that on its head, and instead of exercising so I could eat, start eating so I could exercise, and really resolve some of these underlying challenges, and just improve health altogether. The Scots are renowned in Europe for having one of the worst diets and rates of heart disease and all this sort of thing. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't edging into that while I was looking healthy from the outside, so to speak. So that was the big part of it, was flipping in its head. So I could effectively, I was kind of looking for free speed, because what I was finding is I was plateauing with my training. still enjoying it, but maybe not recovering as quickly, all that sort of thing. So we over time, and this wasn't, what was good about it, we didn't do it like on day one, hey, here's the new thing that you have to go and do. It was a case of understanding where I was at, and then just slowly tweaking and modifying and finding what worked and what have you. And it was, a lot of it was bringing in more protein, more veg, which is, again, something that possibly a lot of us struggle with, but finding really different ways to bring veg into the diet that wasn't, hey, go and eat a salad. We started doing a lot more kind of food prep. A big part of where I struggled is I was traveling a lot for work. So, I was just kind of grabbing a burger in the airport and grabbing a couple of beers on the airplane, and then, same on the other end. So changing it so that I always had something that I could go to that was, quick and easy and healthy. All these started changing, and then also changing how I was eating, before runs and after runs. Every Saturday I'd go for my long run, I'd get home and be like, Ace, look what I deserve to eat now. I can eat all the food. And changing that from just kind of using it as permission to eat a load of crud, and then sure enough, 2 hours later, being flat on the sofa, unable to get myself moving because I was just exhausted. What I was finding is by tweaking what I was eating after the run or even during the run, I wasn't suffering from that near so bad. So it was, kind of made me a more pleasant human in the afternoon after a big long run. So yeah, just lots of little things that we were just tweaking, and kind of that day-to-day nutrition. And none of it was particularly abrupt or abrasive. It was just, working out what works and, what fitted into my lifestyle, all that sort of thing was a critical part to it. And also just cluing into when do I feel hungry. That was one of the big things. It was going from, hey, I've had a run, I can go and eat, I will go and eat now, to, hey, I've had a run, I'm going to have something sensible afterwards, and then I'm going to wait till I'm hungry again before, I go for my next meal, and listening to my body, that sort of thing.
Cool, thanks, Finley. And I just wanted to add, like, we didn't start doing calorie counting or like weighing and measuring all the foods. So some of it was like just intuitive changes, or, like add a handful of this to your lunch, so that just points to the, kind of a framework.
Yeah, I tried all that. I tried, calorie counting and all the rest. And none of them were sustainable or particularly worked, because it wasn't, really addressing some of the underlying issues and listening to what the body needed and understanding more about what good it looks like. And it's not, keto, and it's not this, and it's not, they would be the easy answers, but none of them were really helped me change. And over, it took some time for sure, but over the period of time after, we started working together, my slow runs, my long slow runs, my easy runs, all just were naturally just getting faster. And it was kind of for free. I wasn't training more. I was just eating better to, so my metabolic system was kind of, oh, cool, we're doing an easy run. And it just became natural rather than forced.
Yeah. I think I saw that your coach is on here tonight. So we may have to ask him some other things that he saw. Okay, well, let me flip to talking about nutrition around our training runs. Thank you so much, Finley, for your input so far. So I'm curious, type in the chat what you think this is. I know some of you know this, but what's the #1 reason for a did not finish in ultra running races? What do you think? Oh yeah, y'all know. Mustaches, that's it. Uh-oh. Well, I'm clear then, because I'm
lack of mustache. Come on, people, be serious.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, bonking. GI distress is correcto. Yeah, it's huge. So, I mean, the literature says 30 to 90% of surveyed ultra runners have GI distress. And to be clear, some of that ranges from like, I burped to, I had a burning throat to the more severe, like cramping, diarrhea, vomiting, that kind of stuff. So I'd say the more severe is all that stuff none of us want to go through. Perhaps some of you have already experienced some of that. So no bueno, right? There's huge shifts in blood flow when we start running. Of course, depending on the intensity, the speed at which you're running and weather conditions, how hot it is, all of these things can affect our risk of GI distress. But there are huge changes here from blood flow that was going to the stomach or digestive tract to help with digestion. Now that blood needs to be pushed out to the skeletal muscles that are trying to move us forward, to the skin so that we can release heat and cool the body. I mean, just the up and down nature of running, right? That jostling. So there's a whole lot of reasons here. But, one that I want to mention, obviously, what we're consuming can be a big deal in terms of GI distress. So, again, there are a lot of nuances. Like Taylor was mentioning with the V Fuel, he had tried a variety of other gels and then found V Fuel. So the formulation of that gel is quite unique from something, let's say, like your classic goo energy gel. So looking at what's in the products we're using, if it's an engineered product, is really important. Let's talk a little bit more about fueling, though. Actually, let me switch to talking about what we're consuming before our training runs, because it's not just what we eat during, right? So this, again, I could call it part of your daily nutrition, because we're setting up ourselves for our runs. Some of us do early morning runs, midday, evening. Maybe you've got 2-a-day runs, right? Or an overnight run or something like that. So what we're putting in the body beforehand matters, can relate to GI distress, obviously. There's really no wrong or right. Well, I should already retract that statement. What I want to say is there are a million options. And of course, we're also individual, that we have to kind of play with the combo of foods that's going to sustain us and not have those highs and lows, not give us that GI distress, that feels like it settles well. So really we have to think about what kind of run am I doing? What's the terrain? How long? How hard am I supposed to run this thing? Am I trying to work on metabolic efficiency? That might come into play as far as paying attention to heart rate. Am I feeling some GI sensitivity? So for the women here who still have periods, right? We have PMS, time of the month. Sometimes GI distress is higher in that week or so prior to having a period. So that may play a role in what we decide to eat. So in general, I could give you a list of 100 options, but I'll just say there are more than that number. But I always encourage picking carbohydrates in that pre-run meal that really stick with you a little longer. And what I mean by that is usually something more starchy in nature, or something that we used to say is more complex carb, versus a simple, fast digesting carbohydrate. So before your run, like, let's put stuff in that's going to hold you and carry you, versus just, this is my professional opinion. I don't advocate for having gels before you head out for a run. Save that for during a run. Let's pick some other kind of food to sustain you. But part of that also is always including some protein. So even if you're vegan or if you are keto, whatever it is, there are also many options for protein. So, there's some images here on the screen for some examples. So if you love oatmeal, that's great, but there's really no protein in oatmeal. So adding peanut butter or your protein milk or both, protein powder, seeds, whatever the case, just helps that energy stay longer. There's a couple other examples here. Again, not to get buried in too many details, but when we were talking about being strategic with carbohydrates, with our runs, training runs, we can think about that duration and intensity of the run and adjust carbohydrates in that pre-run meal to support us. So this is something I work on with my athletes. Like, do we need a little bit more carb or maybe not so much? Because it's a, let's say an hour and a half run versus a 5-hour run. There can be some differences there. So we may adjust that ratio of carb in the meal, and therefore the protein, maybe fat content gets adjusted as a result. Okay, so then during our runs, so all of this stuff, for everyone worried about race day, this is the stuff now we want to pay attention to, because we have time now to race day to start practicing this stuff, experimenting, buying other products, make your own. I mean, there's time. So here's the key is like, what are you drawn to? If you're thinking of carrying your own fuel to be more, self-sufficient for the Dirty 30 or any other races you're going to do, then, let's figure it out now. It's so much less stress than worrying the week of the race. So this is why I'm saying, like, kudos to all of you for being here tonight, because you have plenty of time to figure this stuff out for your training runs to come. And then race day is figured out much more easily. And Megan can talk about in a few minutes here, maybe some options that she thinks will be at the aid stations. Perhaps some of these options will be at the aid stations, but I'll continue here for a moment. So during our runs,
Do you want me to chime in, Dina, or do you want to finish?
Not quite. Yeah, not quite yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. So for during run fuel, some of us can do well with putting in some solid foods. So maybe in contrast to something like the V Fuel gel or other gels you might think of. Some of us that maybe are going to power hike a bit more, or we're just newer runners, we're more conservative. Even my faster runners can do some solid foods. Look at the options. And again, there are a whole bunch of options. Some of these have a little bit of protein, some are a little fat, but it's more carbohydrate focused. Bacon would be excluded. That's more protein and fat, more fat. But a lot of options here for what to eat during your run. So, if you feel like you want to use more of your whole food options, then go for it. There's really no problem with that, so long as it's not causing GI distress. For less solid food options, which we could call semi-solid or liquid options, we've got fruits and dried fruits. Some people like avocado and they'll put it in a wrap or something like that. Then we've got, those classic energy gels. We have the newer kinds of gels like V Fuel that Taylor mentioned that's unique in its formulation. There's a little bit of MCT oil, some amino acids, and a couple other ingredients that help with minimizing fatigue. Some of these other kinds of gels or purees are also very unique, like mashed banana and rice or chia gels. So there are a whole lot of options. You have to think about what your palate will like. And some of us like saltier stuff or more savory stuff and not so much sweet coming in. So again, you can think about your own preferences and then work with that. I would add here that caffeine, well, I'm a caffeine fan, but caffeine is also a consideration for giving you a little bit, either a little bit of a perk, or else we could reframe that and say caffeine can kind of take away some fatigue. So some of us, depending on our gene variants, some of us are fast metabolizers of caffeine, so we can feel it differently. But caffeine can be something else to experiment in your long runs. Some of these products have caffeine in them, some do not. Megan, do you want to say here what you are planning for the aid stations, or do you want to save that for the end?
I can speak to that a little bit. There is on the website, on the probably under the aid station tab under the race details page, there is a list of the foods that we've had in the past. As we get a little bit closer to the race, looking at what considerations need to be made at the aid stations for the race, and is, can we make PBJs, or are they not going to allow that? And, I need to maybe put some of these questions out. Are runners going to want to take food that's made by volunteers at the aid stations, or are they only going to feel comfortable taking packaged food, like little packages of potato chips or things like that? So, I think COVID is creating all kinds of considerations that are changing daily, really, weekly for sure. So you can take a look at the website. I am curious if you guys want to put in the chat session the chat option, what you'd really love to see at the aid stations, maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that you'd like really love. 100% finish rate goal on my part means creating things like this event so that you can get the information you need to be successful and taking care of you at the aid stations. So I'm going to do my very best to make sure you get to the finish line, because I want everybody to finish. So let me know what what you'd really like to see. And I've even been having this conversation with Dina for years, like, help me dial in the aid station food. I want to take away all the cookies and all the sugar and all the stuff that is not, in my mind, the best fuel for races. But I think it's also kind of the easy go-to. I just need to eat something, so give me a cookie, and it tastes good in the moment. So just trying to figure it out to really create success so everybody gets to finish. I was going to ask you one thing, Dina. I have heard in working with Tailwind that fructose is known to, and now hearing V Fuel is not using fructose because of this. Like, watermelon is really high in fructose. Some people swear by watermelon at the aid stations, and then other people are like, that's what turns the gut. So what are your thoughts on like having fruit and things like watermelon at the aid stations?
Yeah, it's a good question. There is something to be said for that. We have fewer transporters for fructose, and we know some of that is genetic as well. Also, there's a sex difference. Women tend to absorb less fructose than men. So I think it is something, Megan, to it's like an N of 1 kind of thing, but I think we could get some either lower fructose fruits. Some of it's like, well, what else are we eating at the same time? Or it is an option to just leave, most of that stuff out. But it is a legit, physiological aspect. So
one of those things that's like tastes really good going down, but then like a half hour later you're falling apart and having the gut issues.
Yeah, I mean, so again, it is somewhat of a dose response, how
Mhm.
much fructose at one time, and then what else has been consumed prior to that. So it can be a little bit of a cumulative effect as well. Plus, if it's hot and we're not hydrating well, we're not absorbing those calories very well.
Okay.
So there
There's
are
a
a
lot
lot
of
of,
factors in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm looking at the clock. It's
which
7. So do you want to just finish up and take a few more minutes to finish up, and then we'll open it up to questions, and then a little bit of Dirty 30 business, and then we will let you know who's won the amazing prizes tonight.
Yes, let me go through a couple more things. So the during run piece here, just something to think about how often you're eating. And I'll go through a couple points about hydration as well. And then I wanted to have Finley talk for a minute or two as well about his experience with the run nutrition. So how often should we be eating? This again will depend on what it is you're eating, but I would say for those of you worried about trying to take in enough, that if you're nibbling more often, that might be better for minimizing GI distress rather than eating a big meal at one time, like a whole bar at one time could be a problem. So if for Dirty 30, depending on how long you're out there, you could get away with eating maybe every 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Some people don't like to eat that frequently, but it will depend again on what it is you're consuming. For your training runs, if they're short, it's the pre-run nutrition that matters the most. And again, how much to take, it depends, you guys. I don't know if I've said that too much already, but really it will depend on GI tolerance and how well you can absorb the choices that you're deciding on in terms of gels versus solid food versus fruits and things. Finley, before I switch over to you, I wanted to make a couple points about hydration. So hydration is super important, and it's something that a lot of ultra runners discount or disregard. So a couple tips here is just figuring out, like, if you're a heavy sweater, this is something we want to kind of work on before race day. So we can, and if you email me, I can help you or send you a couple tidbits here since we're running short on time. But for my heavy sweaters here, your hydration is really important. The thing that I want to add to that is that it's not just plain water that we need to drink. We do need some electrolyte in our drink, or we need to be eating some salty foods. So if you feel that you're a salty sweater, which is a whole other component, that does compound. So if we're in, a Dirty 30 that is hot on that day, and there's some sections of the course that do get a lot of sun exposure, you can be sweating a fair amount and losing fluid and sodium in your sweat. If Kevin Goldberg is on still, this is Kevin doing a sweat sodium test in 2020. You can see his mask there. But so we figured out his sweat sodium concentration. I did that with Finley as well. And there was a good 400 or 500 milligram difference just between these two fellas. So there's a lot of variability with how salty we are, independent of how much we sweat. So I can't really tell you exactly how much to drink. Again, it depends on how sweaty you are, your fluid losses, or how much sodium to have in your fueling and your drinks. But there's a range there for you. And I would just be careful of the rules you hear out there on the interwebs that say drink before you're thirsty, or else just drink when you're thirsty. It's not that simple. So if you've had troubles in the past with your hydration, give me a ring, and let's figure that out sooner than later. Let me just cruise through these real quick. For hydration products, not to overwhelm you, but this is just to show you real quick that they're all different. So some of these are, the main point here is that these are very different electrolyte and hydration products. So we have to pay attention to the form of the product, how much sodium is in the serving, what kind of sodium, because some of these are harsh on the gut, and then what the heck else is in the product, because some of them have amino acids or other electrolytes, or there's other sugars in it. So just give a look to what you're using for hydration, and start taking notes for your long training runs as to what you're doing. And then you can fine tune. So I had a couple slides on the race week, but Finley, do you want to comment about, since I've hogged the show, do you want to comment about anything that you went through as far as adjusting your run nutrition?
Yeah, sure. It was, I learned a ton over a short period of time. Hydration for me is huge. You know, I don't have that much sodium in my sweat, but I sweat a lot, like 2 liters per hour on a hot day. Scotsmen ain't used to the sun and exposure you get up here in Boulder. So, you know, learning to take enough salts. I think even the day before we up the intake a little bit, and then the morning of, and then really staying on top of it during the race had a huge impact for me in terms of how I felt during a race. And then just understanding, using all the training runs, they're all mini races to try and dial it in, so that when you come to race day, you know, the things I learned over time, I like to have solid food at my regular meal times, because that stops my stomach getting all in a bind. And then between, you know, we've found those things that just kind of worked and were easy for me just to consume and absorb. And then how those change from this, you know, morning of race day to the evening of race day, and then, you know, late at night, what the body is craving. And just that was just running at different times of day during the training runs and the heat, and at night and mornings, and trying different things, and until I got to that point where I'm like, yeah, I know roughly in these drop bags or at these aid stations I'm going to want these sorts of foods. And it certainly, it massively helps. You know, when you get a race right and you get your nutrition right, they're like the best races ever. And the ones where you get it wrong, like, don't want to do that again. So yeah, not saying I actually have the secret answer, but it was just a trial and error until we got to that point where I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like I know what I need to do going into this race.
Perfect. Hey, Megan, can I go over just a couple more things for race week?
Sure.
Okay. And my clock says 7:04, so yours might be a little fast. Just kidding.
It is.
Plus, we didn't start till like
I do that so
6:20.
I'm somewhat on time.
No, but so for race week, like basically everything we just talked about, which I know was jammed into 4 seconds, but those things that you can work on from now through, you know, the week prior to the race, then you're fine tuning and adjusting. And if you are totally lost, then someone like me, or maybe your coach, can help you with fine tuning your nutrition. But for those of you doing the Dirty 30 or Megan's Silverton races, I mean, you've got time to study the course. It's great if we can get out there as the snow melts and actually check out the sections, and then study her race guide to know where the aid stations are exactly, because you can see there's some good climbs here. Some of these are a little more technical, others are runnable, others are in the sun. All this affects how you might be carrying your food and fluid, or when you take food and fluid. So race week, a couple pointers here, even though it's a couple months out, is this, my suggestions for you is race week really is about sleeping well, trying to minimize stress, like things that you've heard 1 zillion times. You know, food wise, I'd say it's not the time to go learn a new cuisine or like try that spice you've never had in your life, right? It's like stick to your plain boring stuff and just party afterwards. It's not a time to just dink around, right? Because we care about our race day. So like eat your normal stuff. That day before, maybe 36 hours before most ultra distance running is where we can perhaps up the carbohydrates. There are a lot of conditions behind this, but I will say the classic carbo loading thing has, like for any of you old like me, like that classic carb load thing is kind of going out the window for most of us. So it just means you can still add more carbohydrates to your meals in the day before, that 36 hours before, but we don't need to do like all the bagels, all the pizza, all the pasta. Like most people end up with more GI distress and puffy bloating, terrible issues on race morning. So keep that in mind. And then, you know, if you are sensitive to fiber or too much fat, you know, like you might want to cut down on some of your broccoli or your cabbage, stuff like that. So, you know, it's kind of like, some of it might seem like common sense, but it's stuff that I still see athletes kind of goof up on. And then race day, again, depending on your start time, you just work backwards for your morning to figure out the timing of those pre-run meals that you've mastered by now, right? You know what to do. That's the goal for all of you here, because you're here and you're in the know now. So, you know, we're trying to honor Megan's 100% finish race. So like, let's do this for Megan and for our own selves. I know. And then during the race, I mean, again, it's going to depend on if you're using her aid station food or a combo of some of your own stuff. But again, really everything that we're working on from now to race day is stuff that you're going to do on race day. Of course, there's always room for error and mistake and oops, you know, I dropped that thing, or shoot, whatever. So being flexible and adaptable to, you know, just adjust based on how you're feeling. But I will say for the athletes that practice this stuff in advance, you are, just like Finley said, you typically will be set up for a much more successful day. And that's beautiful when that happens. So kudos to all of you for being here. My contact info is on this slide. And then I don't know if Finley wants to add anything else about race day before we pause and let Megan do her bit with the business. But certainly shoot me an email, and I wanted to extend a discount on a consultation for any of you that do need some guidance here. And I am done. Finley, do you have anything?
No, just to say, do your prep work before you get out on race day, and then when you get there, just enjoy the day out in the hills and have fun.
Sounds like some good advice to me. And let's open it up to questions. If you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and shoot away with your questions.
I have a question.
Awesome.
So I know I'm kind of getting into a different topic, well, a related topic, but Dina, could you possibly touch upon the sympathetic nervous system's role in GI distress and absorption of nutrients, and how important it is to, you know, on race morning, we're excited, we're amped up. I like to just guzzle down my meal and then work on like my pre-race stuff, getting dressed and all that. But really, how much of a difference does it make with, you know, your GI distress and how well you get the nutrients you need when you take that time just to relax and eat food?
Ariel, that's beautiful, because I didn't talk much about the psychology or the anxiety, that role. I know there are a couple coaches, Coach Kevin is here too, that might want to add maybe from a coaching perspective. But yeah, that is huge. The speed at which we eat, the anxiety or any kind of mental stress about a long training day, or maybe there are other stressors that are weighing on us, that definitely can impact our digestion. And it seems woo woo, right? But it is a thing, and there is some actual research to support the role of more so the anxiety than the eating speed. But I would say if you can, like, get in your zen zone to maybe you have to wake up earlier, but it is legitimate in contributing or being a factor for GI stress. So I don't know if anyone else wants to add. Sorry, Coach Kevin, I didn't mean to like pull you in as a new guest here, but
No, you're fine. Yeah, just kind of like what Dina said. What's worked for me is I used to have issues with that, and I've woken up earlier and eaten earlier. I've actually even woken up, eaten, gone back to sleep, and then woken up again. So I try to have my big pre-race meal about a solid 2 hours before race start, where I used to probably do it more like an hour, and I've seen a big just improvement in overall feeling ready to start, more so from that, and then. Just on the psychological side, you should be doing things in training that scare you a little bit too. Not quite as much as how you'll be scared when if you're scared of the, standing at the start line of Dirty 30, but some of your training should be making you feel a little anxious too. Like, oh, I'm going to go out and run for 4 hours. That's crazy. So, those are the times to really experiment with that and learn how that's going to make you feel and how your body's going to react to that on all the different levels. So I just say practice, and don't be afraid of getting uncomfortable before race day, because then you'll know what it feels like when you're uncomfortable on race day. Hopefully not, but if you are.
Thanks for adding, Kevin. And I see Melanie next to you. These guys are multiple time Dirty 30ers, and Kevin's been at the podium for the 12 mile, and I think they've both done well in the 50K. So thank you for all your support. And Kevin has helped with social media in the past. So yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing, Kevin. Any other questions? That was a good question, by the way, Ariel. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, hey, I have a question actually. So I'm actually coming from DC, not specifically for this race, but I'll be there, like maybe a week or two before. And there's definitely some consideration about like changing elevation, right? Coming from sea level up to altitude and how that will affect metabolism. Are there like specific things that you would recommend like considering in doing that?
Yeah, let's see, William. I think, when if you were in earlier, when we were talking about metabolic efficiency and just using the few months that you have to check on daily nutrition, and that can be something I could help you with. But I mean, I think the evidence is a little mixed, especially because this isn't at, the 12,000 feet and above altitude. It's or elevation. Megan, what's the highest?
Dirty 30, between 75 and 95.
Okay, so it gets still up there. I would focus more, William, at least a couple tidbits here, is really figuring out your hydration strategy, because it is one thing that a lot of athletes who come from sea level to this kind of condition tend to neglect or don't realize that the hydration impact is pretty significant. Also, that your sense of like desiring foods could change as a result of being at higher elevation. So you may, some of us are more sensitive. So you may, for example, just not feel like eating, your appetite goes down as a result. So that's like, oh, have a backup plan for something else that really sounds good. Even if it's M&Ms, it doesn't matter. During this race, like, you eat what you need to make it to the finish line. So I think having some variety and really giving attention to the hydration would be the keys that I would say right now to focus on.
Great question, William. Thank you. Because we do have 62 lowlanders coming to Dirty 30. Pretty excited about that. So, any other questions out there?
I kind of have a question. Going back to like the metabolic conditioning and practicing, because you kind of talked about like getting better at getting fat adapted, and like I feel like I can always tell like when I need to eat because my legs get so heavy. So I guess like, do you just need to practice running through that, or like how do you practice getting better at not needing to eat carbs all the time?
Yeah, and thank you, Lindsay. And because I'm not suggesting that we are carb free or anything, or that we are zero carb. It's just being strategic with carbohydrates. So I wouldn't want you to feel heavy legs. In fact, I don't think pushing through that is necessarily the best thing, but I don't know if you have a coach, because there's like your training side, a proper training program. And then there's the nutrition and recovery side. And then, like how they work together and how one supports the other. So I would say during your runs, we don't want to feel completely trashed all the time. That's not, there are some runs, obviously, we have fatigue, and that's the point. But we need to also recover thereafter. So I would take a look at what you're doing before and after to make sure you're getting some good recovery, like protein, especially for female athletes. Like we need a lot of protein, 30 to 40 grams post run for a longer run. So I think being cautious, like I'm not saying don't eat carbs, it's just trying to shift maybe your daily meals to support metabolic efficiency, but still feeling well for your runs.
Do you think that some of that just comes naturally with the territory of running longer distances, as far as like being more like better at fat adaptation?
Yeah, I mean, exercise itself helps with increasing our fat adaptation. But for specific, like feeling heavy legs and things, I'll pull Coach Kevin in again to help me out on that one.
Well, I'm muted. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Dina. You should not necessarily be feeling heavy legs. Not never. I mean, of course, it happens to everyone, but that is likely going to come down if it's a recurring thing to your training and just overall leg strength. Consistency in your strength training, consistency in your overall volume, and that doesn't mean you have to have a super high volume. I always say I'd rather my athletes do 20, 30, 40 miles a week consistently for months and months building up to their A race than do 15, 20 mile weeks and have a couple of 70, 80 mile weeks in there. So that's just going to be consistency, building that leg strength over time. And then proper recovery, making sure you're rewarding that training and giving your body the chance to catch up. So following a good training plan or working with a coach is going to help with that issue.
Can I mention something too about that I've used that has helped? So one thing you can do, obviously every run is going to be different, whether you're doing like a hard hill workout versus an easy run, and what factors into those legs being tired obviously is a lot of things. It's our sleep, it's how hard the workout is, what we ate before, how stressful our day was at work. One thing that you can do that's really helped me is every run kind of journaling, kind of a real, in a nutshell. You can even journal by taking pictures of your food and being like, okay, well, this is what I had before a run. And then after your run, right after, how did you feel? The day after, how recovered do you feel? And watching trends over time and comparing your food intake and kind of dial in what you feel works for you, because like Dina was saying, it's going to be different for everybody. so just playing with it and having fun with it and trying different things and seeing what works through journaling and paying attention to that.
Great advice. Thanks for sharing. Any other questions out there?
I could add to that last point too, as a coach and as an athlete. Usually, those other pieces of nutrition, your daily nutrition, I always vouch for that. But what you eat before a longer run, and usually for my athletes, when their runs start getting to above the 2 hour mark, that's when we start really talking about the adding in the nutrition during the run. Otherwise, you really need to rely on what's happening beforehand. Before that, and maybe some other coaches along here could add to that too. But you really have to think about the duration and the demands, and then figuring out your nutrition within that, which is all we've been talking about, but just reinstated.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? One more question if we have it. These are great questions, you guys. Thanks for bringing them up. And thank you, Dina, for putting together this thorough, amazing presentation to help these runners through these next couple months and to show up ready and well-fueled and to have some strategy to get them through the race. I think about, Dirty 30 and my 100% finish rate goal. And then I think about Barkley's marathon, where I think his goal is to have absolutely nobody finish. I should have a little event with Megan and Laz and our goals of 0% finish rate and 100% finish rate. But please don't, for those people who've never done an ultra, who've never done a trail race, I know you're out there, and that have not been out here to do the Dirty 30. It is a tough race. Everybody who finishes is like, oh my God, that's so much harder than I thought it could possibly be. So do spend these, use this information that you've been given, and do put the time in to train. And it's about consistency. It's not necessarily about tons of miles, but it is about consistency. And dialing in this nutrition is a big part of success at the Dirty 30. So again, I just really am grateful and feel honored to have Dina on this. She's been mastering her skills as a dietitian and helping people, athletes, feel the success and reach their goals. And we're really blessed to have her and her time. So thank you. Any additional things you want to add,
Megan.
Dina?
No, I don't have anything other than thanking Finley as well for contributing some perspectives too from his experience.
Yeah,
Finley's running Leadville 100 this year.
Who is?
Finley.
Oh, way to go, Finley. And yeah, thank you, Kevin, and for adding your pieces from a coaching perspective. And thank you to Bowden too for being here and sharing your perspective. You guys have helped make a great event. So thank you very much. I would like to just cover a couple of business things for Dirty 30, and just kind of keep you guys up to date of what's going. I don't have a lot of specifics, but I do want to remind everybody that there are going to be no spectators at Dirty 30 this year. So please tell your families, tell your friends, so everybody knows. And there's only going to be enough shuttling to get runners to the race. And in the past, we've had shuttle buses to take in spectators, and we've had shuttle buses to take people to aid stations, and that's just not going to be possible this year with the COVID restrictions. I found out about 2 weeks ago that Gilpin School is having their athletic season extended to the end of June, and they are not able to be there this year for Dirty 30. So yes, this is really unfortunate. And their buses are not going to be taking us to the start. So I've now hired Jeffco buses to take us to the start and to help shuttle us. And since the buses are coming from Jefferson County, I am in the process of looking for a shuttle parking lot down on the Front Range, somewhere around 93 and 46. I'm looking at the North Area Athletic Complex for Jefferson Schools, Jeffco Schools on, I think, 64th and 93 as a potential parking lot. I'm looking at a couple of Jefferson County buildings, parking lots, and I'm also considering the T-Rex lots off of I-70 and the Morrison exit as parking lots. So we may be nixing. I'm also having issues with the Gilpin County Fairground parking lot. Has had some new issues that have arisen this week. So lots of things changing. So I do need all of the Dirty 30ers to add Megan at dirty30.org into your contacts. And this will assure that emails from me get into your inbox and not your spam and promotional folders. So there is going to be some emails going out where I need timely responses. So if you guys can let others know that you know that are doing the race to do this so that we can get the information out. I did just spend several hours calling 44 Dirty 30ers this last couple days that were not responding to my email about entering in your estimated time. Those estimated times, again, are not, they don't need to be perfect. It's just a way to spread people out. And so we can do so I can figure out the start times. You will be getting a start time. And we are doing the starts different this year than we've done in the past. And so it's not what it says on the website currently. So we are starting with the fastest people first and the slowest people last. We will be starting probably 40 people per wave, and we will start in 5-minute wave increments. So the fastest are going to start at 6 and the slowest will start around 6:45. So we are still going to do shuttle, or we are going to do 80 cars can drive and park at the start. Those 80 cars are likely going to get some sort of a parking pass from me to do that. So again, I need to figure out these logistics. And so we make sure the people who need to have that 6 a.m. start are getting there. And the people who are up in Gilpin County or who were coming from the mountains to go to the Gilpin parking lot, they may be permitted to drive with 3 people in their car at least. In order to make this work, we need 3 people per car. So there's going to be lots of minute logistical details to make it work this year, given all these COVID restrictions and all these new things that have happened. So I appreciate you guys. I know that everybody is grateful this race is going to happen. And I know that most of you understand the logistics of what I'm trying to navigate, and you guys are being patient and appreciative. So thank you very much for that. So I think that's, let me see if there's any other business. I think that's it for my business right now. Again, as always, stay tuned to the Dirty 30 group, private group Facebook page. We make posts there. We've got lots of great activity, people helping each other out with things. And then of course the Facebook page, and then the emails that are going out. We keep you guys updated what's going on. So enough business. Thank you to our amazing sponsors who've given great prizes for tonight. I have randomly picked 4 people. There were over 120 people who signed up for the prizes tonight. We are giving the pair of Ultra shoes to the first name I drew, and that is Jess.Haynes 1112@gmail.com. I don't have names. We just got email addresses. So is Jess.Haynes on this call? They may not be on the call. You don't have to be on the call to win. I will email people that they won. And then for the Runner's Roost gift card that comes with some V-Fuel, I'm not V-Fuel, with some Tailwind, a bag of Tailwind, which retails at around $40. That is going to the letter C, Dean, DEAN, at co.gmail.com. Is that person on the call today? Okay. And then the 30-minute consult with the nutrition mechanic, Miss Dina Griffin, is going to Kozich, Kozich at Comcast.net. Is Kozich. I could be slaughtering that name, sorry.
Yes, that's me.
All right, Margaret. Did
Hi.
Kozich?
Yes, yes.
Oh, bravo, bravo. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
So you get to connect with Dina. I will send her your email. You guys can connect and set up a 30-minute consult.
Great, thank you.
That's awesome. And if you have anything to share or takeaways or anything, please share on the Dirty 30 Facebook group how that went.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Oh, congratulations. Thanks for being here tonight. And then the last prize is either a Dirty 30 entry or a Silverton Ultra Dirty entry at the value of $155. So if you want to do the Silverton 100K or the 100 miler, you will need to pay the difference. But Dirty 30's filled, both men's and women's, and the Silverton 60K is filled, but winning this will get you into the race. So that person is Todd.A.Weaver. Are you present? Todd, are you out there? Okay, no Todd. So I will email the winners on these prizes. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here and being part of this. And yeah, just that. The next happy hour, mark your calendars, is going to be May 25th. It's a live event at Runner's Roost Denver off of Colorado Boulevard and I-25. Matt Hart, who wrote the book Win at All Costs about the Coach Salazar out of Nike issues. He is presenting. He's a top ultra runner and he's been a coach. And Addie Bracey, who is a top women's runner, and she is a coach, and she has just written a book on ultra running and sports psychology. They will be speaking about how to run your best Dirty 30 and prepare for in those days before the race, and the mindset to show up with on race day. And then I'll speak about some race day logistics and stuff like that, so that you guys can show up without being as least frazzled as possible. And there's lots of logistics there. So again, thank you. Oh, and then also we have the women's the Sistas extravaganza coming up. It's a women's event, and that is April 17th. It's a Saturday. That's going to be at Runner's Roost Boulder. We'll have a group run. We'll either be doing probably a 3 to 5 mile run and maybe a 5 to 6 mile run. So we'll have 2 different groups going out with that, and we'll have a women's panel of elite women runners, and we'll be discussing women's issues and things that concern women in ultra trail running. And we'll have some delish food from Whole Soul smoothie bowls and some other goodies. So mark your calendars, ladies, for April 17th. And I think that's all I've got to share tonight. Anything else? Am I forgetting anything? All right.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and we will see you on the trails. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Good night.